Erling is a completely different animal. Watching him makes the playing field seem too small, the game too easy, and the other players too weak. There isn't much of a surprise factor at play here, no sneaky angles, simply a player who can perform every basic skill with supercharged technique, power, and conviction. But there's also another side to this great player, and the truth is, Erling Haaland's epic Premier League start is Manchester City's greatest sportswashing achievement. Hello everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Footballogy. Our channel takes a look at different sports and gets into detail about the political aspect of it. In this video, we will cover the topic of how Erling Haaland, one of the best players in the world, is used by his club Manchester City to avoid negative news about the owner's home nation. Before we start, please hit that like and subscribe button. Let's start! Haaland and sportswashing. Sportswashing, as explained by our earlier video, implies attempts by countries that violate human rights to improve their international reputation by taking over sports clubs or hosting sports events. Man City bought Haaland for an insane amount of money. I mean, an insane. The agent, Mino Raiola, must have received a hefty compensation, and if the reported salary of £500,000 per week is accurate, City will spend more than £130 million on his salaries alone over the course of a 5-year deal, bringing the total cost to more than £200 million. The Premier League champions, who are owned by a royal family from United Arab Emirates, are being criticized for their gross violations of human rights, and in Norway, the transfer of Haaland has led to a new debate about sportswashing in sports in general and football in particular. Haaland is Norwegian, and Norwegian football has been at the forefront of protests against this winter's World Cup finals being held in Qatar. When Norway played against Gibraltar and Turkey in international friendlies in March 2021, for example, their players took to the pitch wearing t-shirts with human rights on and off the pitch written on them. Under a threat of being banned from the 2026 World Cup by FIFA, the Norwegian FA eventually voted to continue anyway, but it all ended up somewhat academic. Norway finished in third place in their group and failed even to make the playoffs. The words printed on Haaland's t-shirt rings pretty empty now as he is signed for City, but none of this should be surprising. If there's one lesson that the 21st century unfortunately have taught us all, it's that the human rights of others usually take a distant second place to someone throwing astronomical amounts of money at you. Sadly, money talks, also in football. Manchester City won the bidding for Haaland, a huge offer that already earned him 130 million Norwegian kroner since he signed on from July 1. We estimate that Haaland will earn another 220 million Norwegian kroner per year over the next 5 years from the club alone. Sponsor income will come in addition. Haaland is one of the best paid players in the league. Manchester City is a club that has no limits economically. Harry Arne Solberg, a professor specializing in sports economy at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. But for Manchester City and its owners, the money spent on Haaland is worth it, as his goal-scoring headlines will distract the general public and media from some of the negative headlines coming out of the United Arab Emirates. For example, check out this video. It's a great example of sportswashing. Haaland can be seen promoting a visit to country that detains those who criticize authorities, including hundreds of activists and academics, and where laws discriminate against women, migrants, and LGBT individuals. It is pure propaganda from the Norwegian. Haaland and his image in Norway. Erling Haaland's move to Manchester City is viewed extremely critically in his Norwegian homeland. On the other side, Haaland and Manchester City is more popular than ever before. The fact that he is doing so well seems to make a lot of people forget about the sportswashing, and that is exactly what the City owners want. Star striker Erling Haaland has led the sportswashing debate that flared up in his native Norway about his move to Manchester City. He knows very well what is meant by sportswashing, but when he decided on the club, which was supported by the United Arab Emirates, he was only concerned with his sporting development, Haaland said at a press conference of the Norwegian national team. "That's how I've done it at every club I've switched to," emphasized the former Dourmund and Salzburg player. At City, there is also the fact that he has been a fan of the club his whole life, where his father, Alf Inge, was a professional. He added, "When I chose my club, I thought about the sport, the coach, the players, this and that," said Haaland. When asked what he thought of the City owners, who were accused of gross violations of human rights, he shockingly said, "I've never met them. I don't know them that well. Those are pretty harsh accusations. I can't say much about that. I think that would get a bit boring." OMG, how could he do that? His response was the owner of Manchester City's dream quote. One of football's biggest stars just told the media that the City owners' violations of human rights were just accusations. Let's be clear on Haaland's behalf. There is no accusations about the owners' violations of human rights. It is a fact. They starve, torture, and kill people on a regular basis. This is not the first time Haaland's views on his owners have been controversial. On March 24, Norway organized the first of many commemorations for the human rights of migrant workers in Qatar who are constructing World Cup infrastructure ahead of the World Cup in 2022. Prior to the meeting with Luxembourg, each player from Norway raised a hand to represent human rights. The same incident happened before the game against Greece, but Haaland chose to put his hand behind teammate Alexander Srloth's back, while everyone else put theirs up. This was an instance where Haaland had to change his stance on human rights, possibly due to pressure from his club management. National coach Ståle Solbakken defended his key player. "Manchester City is recognized by the Premier League," he said. "The question of whether you can play for such a club is far too big for an individual like Haaland." Haaland was also sharply criticized by a fan group in his Norwegian homeland at the beginning of August. "Braut plays for dirty blood money" was written on a banner that SK Brann supporters unrolled in the game against Haaland's youth club Bryn FK. Haaland cannot escape criticism. He could have chosen any club in the world. He didn't have to choose which club was the worst in terms of sports washing. SK Brann fan spokesman Erland Itra Arne Vagan told Norwegian radio at the time. Haaland's youth club, Bryn FK, has also been criticized for now selling Manchester City shirts in their club store. But in the end, it's challenging to separate this deal from all the sports washing. Yes, Haaland is an amazing footballer who chose a team based on their players, manager, and his family history. But let's not forget, Man City are where they are today because of their owners. Their owners have one goal: to sports wash their own reputation, to make you forget all about their human rights violations. Haaland knows this and are selling his brand to them. In a Norwegian documentary about Haaland's transfer to City called Haaland, The Choice, he is talking about how City is the greatest club of all clubs, how everything in City is amazing, and let the viewers forget what City is really about. In other words, this documentary is pure propaganda. There will be many ready to tell us how great it is for the Premier League that a player like Haaland is coming to these shores. But these viewpoints will ignore the possibility that his arrival at this specific club at this specific time may well prove to be a significant step toward the elimination of competitive balance within the league. Let's not forget, Man City is founded by a state, and their plan is to sports wash their public image. Because of that, their transfer budget seems to be endless. It's getting harder and harder for other clubs to compete with City oil-funded wealth. Thanks for watching. Do you agree with our video? Comment below and let us know.